Harry's testimony yesterday and today was not really about phone hacking, blagging, or the granular mechanics of tabloid journalism. That was the legal scaffolding. What the court actually witnessed was a husband finally and publicly drawing a line about his wife and about the pressure that she's been put under. For almost 2 hours, he was measured, controlled, occasionally irritated, sometimes defensive. He argued back, he corrected phrasing, he insisted on context, he behaved like a litigant who knows he is being tested not only by a barrister, but by a culture that has already decided what it thinks of him, and then something shifted. It was not when his own childhood was discussed, not when his girlfriends were named again one by one like exhibits, not even when his mother's death was dragged back into the room. It was when he spoke about Meghan. They have made my wife's life an absolute misery. And at that point, the performance stopped, the courtroom stopped, the voice cracked, and for the first time in this long legal saga, something uncontestable entered the space, and that was loyalty. And this matters because Prince Harry is often accused of many things, but loyalty is not one of the charges normally laid against him. He is accused of disloyalty to the crown, to tradition, to Britain, to restraint, to silence. And what we saw instead was an almost old-fashioned fidelity, the sort that says, you may do this to me, you may rewrite my past, but you will not do it to my wife without resistance. That line didn't come from strategy. It was not drafted by Chauvin. It was not for the press. It came from a man who has watched the same machinery grind forward again and recognised it too late the first time. The testimony repeatedly returned to the one phrase, open season. Harry rejects the idea that being royal converts a human life into a commercial quarry, and this is where the case becomes philosophically interesting, because the defence leans heavily on a confused notion of public interest. Harry's argument is simpler and frankly stronger. Curiosity is not the same thing as necessity. Entertainment is not accountability. And intrusion is not journalism simply because it sells. When he spoke of his wife, the legal abstractions collapsed. This was no longer about whether a journalist blagged a flight manifest or invented a source. It was about consequence. Meghan, he said, was subjected to harassment that was persistent, racialized, and unrelenting. Pregnancy didn't slow it. Motherhood didn't soften it. And silence, the old royal remedy, did not protect it. And here is the uncomfortable truth for his critics. This is exactly what a loyal husband should say. He didn't minimize, he didn't relativize, he didn't deflect onto institutional convenience. He stood in court and said plainly that the press made his wife's life miserable. Not awkward, not difficult, miserable. Much of the commentary since has tried to redirect that moment. Some say he's still angry. Some say therapy has failed him. Some say he lacks perspective. All of that misses the point. Anger is not the opposite of healing when it is proportionate and directed. Sometimes it is simply memory refusing to be erased. Harry's testimony also exposes a deeper hypocrisy. He is criticised for speaking, yet blamed for not speaking sooner. He is accused of oversharing, yet told his silence proves consent. He is mocked for invoking trauma, yet condemned not for transcending it neatly enough for public comfort. The truth is simpler. He broke with never complain, never explain, precisely because it failed when it mattered most. And this is where Meghan stands at the centre of the story, not as an accessory, not as a catalyst, but as the person who clarified his moral line. He says openly that this approach to the press changed because of how she was treated. That's not manipulation. That is recognition. I understand this deeply. There is at least one country that I love deeply, that I will never visit again, because that is the country where my partner was tortured. And I simply cannot, I cannot get over that fact. I feel defensive. I understand where Harry's coming from here. I understand deeply where he's coming from. I have deep sympathy for him. And the court, of course, will run for weeks more. It may succeed or fail on technical grounds, limitation periods, evidential thresholds, sourcing practices that will all be debated. But none of these will erase what happened in that room when Harry spoke of his wife, because that moment revealed something the tabloids have never been able to tolerate. A royal who will not trade his marriage for approval, a royal who is prepared to speak the truth. And there was a moment of truth there, a moment of emotional, personal truth, which cannot be spun away by the people in the Daily Mail or the Express, the editors of the Daily Mail, the Express, and all these tabloid gutter newspapers. And I know some of the people who work for them or who have worked for them. I wouldn't have them round for tea. I wouldn't have them anywhere near me. They are contaminated with the filth of sticking their head in the bowl of the lavatory and flushing and flushing and flushing and seeing what comes up. We know what comes up. We know what comes up and nothing goes down. If this is his last battle with Britain, as some have suggested, then it was at least fought on honest terrain by Harry. Not for popularity, not for closure, but for the simple proposition that marriage entails protection even when it costs you status. And whatever one thinks of Prince Harry, whatever one thinks of Meghan, that line in court was not petulance, narcissism, or performance. It was fidelity under oath. And that is not a weakness. It is the clearest thing he has said in years, and I salute him.